Hello and welcome to this episode of the podcast where we are going to be talking about the concept of New Year Nourished You. So, yes, this is a 10-day challenge that I run at the start of the year. However, it's also a whole concept. And I want to talk about how this concept was created because back in the day, it must have been 5 or 6 years ago when I first came up with that challenge and first came up with the concept for it. I was hearing a lot of like, new year, new me. And while I am all for reinvention and I'm all for continuing to evolve ourselves and transform ourselves and continuing to step into the best version of ourselves, I also can see the shadowy side of that whole concept of New Year, New Me. And this is why I renamed it and why I created New Year Nourished You, because I want people to know, really understand, and really feel that you don't have to be a new person. You are already incredible as you are. You are already whole, perfect, and complete. And just to say, there is no such thing as perfect. We are perfectly imperfect, which is what makes us perfect. Um, and you don't need to change and be this whole new version of you. Yes, as part of this journey of self development, part of this journey of transformation and evolution, and continuing to step into the best version of ourselves, we are going to change and evolve. It's going to be a natural byproduct. But can we love ourselves along the way? Can we, instead of disowning ourselves and being like, oh, don't like where I am right now, so I need to be a new me, can we reframe that? And can we see that we are already amazing? And all we need to do is decondition ourselves from all of the stories, all of the beliefs, all of the limiting perspectives that tell us that we are not already amazing as we are. And as we start to believe that, as we start to step into that, start to be like, okay, I'm already incredible. And yes, there are things in my life that I would love to change, and things in my life that I know I deserve, and things in my life that I'm aiming to call in. Yes, you can do all of that, but can you love yourself along the way? And when we love ourselves along the way, it actually completely changes and naturally transforms us because we change the way we treat ourselves. We change the way we show up in our life. We change the way that we treat others and therefore are treated by others. So, if we can come back to this concept of New Year nourished you instead of New Year new you, knowing that you are already amazing, you are already perfect, this is an absolute game changer and a perspective I would love everyone to adopt. Because when we are leaning more into that new year, new you kind of thing, like I said, we're disowning ourselves as we currently are. We're telling ourselves we're not enough, which is one of those core beliefs that hold us back in life and one that so many of us suffer with, right? I've done so much work on believing that I am enough, I am worthy, I am incredible as I am. And let me tell you, that whole working on that belief and those things has completely transformed the way I show up in life and who I am as a person, right? So, what if instead of being like, okay, it's a new year, I need to be a new me, what if you can show up and be like, cool, new year, new opportunities, new days to choose differently, a time to nourish myself, a time to love myself. And through that, you will naturally evolve. You will naturally become a different version of you, but it will be coming from a really wholesome place where you already know that you're whole, perfect, and complete. You already are loving yourself along the journey and you're enjoying the journey, not just the destination of when you reach this elusive new version of you. What if you could actually love every step of the way? Because life is in the present moment. And when we continue to say that the way we want to be or the things that we want are somewhere off in the future, we're separating them from us. We're saying, okay, but I can't be happy until I'm that new version of me. And then what happens if we stop acting as that new version of ourselves? We start to beat ourselves up. That inner critic comes in. It's like, oh, you did it again. You're back in your old habits, your old patterns. What if instead we can release all that and be like, awesome. My sole purpose right now is just to show up for me, to love me, and to nourish me. Because nourishing ourselves is a form of self respect. And I say this around food all the time. Eating well, eating nutritious food, majority of the time, because there is no need to be super strict and only eat healthy food 100% of the time. That can actually be quite restrictive and not necessarily the healthiest relationship with food. But when we can show up and nourish our bodies with love, feeding ourselves real food majority of the time, that's a form of self-respect. And the same goes for all of the other areas of health, right? The way we move our body, the way we prioritize our nervous system regulation, the way we prioritize sleep, the way we hydrate ourselves. Can we show up for ourselves and nourish ourselves, knowing that we are incredible? Knowing that we deserve to feel amazing, and we will feel amazing by giving ourselves these gifts. And in the times that we don't give ourselves those gifts, in the times where we don't show up for ourselves, or we don't eat healthy, or we don't drink enough water one day, we don't beat ourselves up about it. We stop making it so personal. We stop making it mean something about ourselves. I cannot tell you how liberating that is, how much it will set you free. So I really want to encourage you this year as you step into 2024. We are just over a week in now. It's the 8th of January as I'm recording this. And as you're stepping into this new year, as you are getting excited about all that you can create in this year ahead, feel into that you don't have to be a new version of you, that you are already amazing, and that when you start to believe that, your life will completely change. So this year, instead of focusing on becoming a new you or disowning parts of yourself, what if you can really accept more parts of yourself? If you can really learn to accept and love yourself as you are along the journey to who you want to be or where you want to be, right? Like I said, this life is always happening in the now. Let's bring it back into this moment. How can we show up for ourselves now? How can we act as this version of ourselves that loves ourselves and that wants to nourish ourselves now, not in the future? Like, there's no magic reset button on the 1st of January that it's like, cool, all right, new year, new me, everything's different now. Now I'm sticking to all these habits. I'm doing all these things. Life is great. Life is sunshine and rainbows. It's not the case. It's all about those choices. It's all about choosing ourselves day after day after day, moment after moment, coming back to that and continuing to choose to nourish yourself. And sometimes that is going to look like doing those healthy habits. Other times it is going to look like giving yourself that break and having compassion for yourself and not holding guilt for that. So this concept of New Year Nourished You is essentially bringing us back to the truth that we are amazing and we deserve to nourish ourselves. We deserve to feel amazing. We deserve to be healthy and vibrant and thriving. And we can do that by choosing to show up and support ourselves and nourish ourselves. And that is exactly why I created the 10-day challenge, New Year Nourished You, where in this 10 days, we do go into 10 different core pillars of health. I call them the ingredients for a nourished life. And they are different areas of health that will support us in being our most nourished version of ourselves, in becoming that best version of ourselves through the process of loving ourselves every step of the way. And this 10-day challenge is completely free and it is currently running, and I want to invite you to come join us inside. Throughout this challenge, there are some exciting giveaways. There's a beautiful community of like-minded people. I am absolutely loving connecting with those of you inside. And oh my gosh, it's just like warming my heart to see the interaction, to see the comments, to see how you are showing up for yourself this year. So honoring those of you already inside, and those of you that are listening to this podcast episode or watching it on YouTube, if you'd like to join us, if you'd like to go through these 10 core pillars to help you live your happiest and healthiest life in 2024, I invite you to join us inside. You can join via the link in the show notes or the bio or wherever you're watching this or listening to this. And some of the topics we're going to be going through are nutritious food. So that is very much not just about what to eat, but how to approach it. What is our relationship with food like? Because that has a massive impact on what we eat, but also how we feel. So we want to eat beautiful, nourishing, real food majority of the time so we feel good, right? But if we're doing that and then we're berating ourselves in the times where we don't necessarily stick to that real food most of the time, or we have a really negative relationship with food, it's actually holding us back and we're not actually getting the most out of that particular pillar. So we look at the relationship to food. Day 2 is all about optimal hydration. We're looking at, okay, how can we stay hydrated and nourish our body with this water that it needs to thrive? We look at strategies to make this a habit and just make this a part of what we do and who we are. There's a day about restful sleep. There's a day about daily movement. There's a day about blissful relaxation, which is all about nervous system regulation. There's days about loving connections and who we surround ourselves with, because we become the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time around, right? There's days about having a healthy home and how that helps set us up for success, about emotional health, which is such a huge part of health and really links into the food piece as well. Because if we don't have that emotional health, if we don't have those emotional regulation tools, we can turn to food or other distraction techniques like binge watching television or scrolling social media. So having that emotional health really helps us be healthy in other areas as well. Helps us show up for ourselves in those times where it can feel difficult or there are big emotions present. There's a day about self-love, of course, because it's the underpinning of health. And when we can approach health from that place of self-love that I encourage through this whole concept of New Year Nourished You, it completely changes our life and the way that we feel about our life and feel about ourselves. Such a gift. And what am I missing? Empowered mindset. Our mindset is such a big piece of the puzzle. So often we know what to do, but we've got this inner critic in our mind telling us all these things that are wrong with us, or we just can't make ourselves do the things that we say we want to do, or we're struggling with self-sabotage or procrastination. So having an empowered mindset, understanding that yes, we may have an inner critic, but we don't have to buy into that. We get to choose how to respond. That's all really powerful too when it comes to this health puzzle. So that's a little bit about the concept of New Year Nourished You and this 10-day challenge that I'm running. I also am going to be sharing it here on the podcast so that you can tune in, but I highly recommend actually joining and signing up so that you get the Wheel of Health worksheet that we're working through. And the Wheel of Health worksheet is essentially the 10 ingredients for the nourished life, those things that I was just talking you through, like the food, sleep, hydration, movement, self-love, healthy home, all of those kinds of things. And we're going through and we're evaluating those areas, and we're evaluating them not from a place of judgment, but from a place of just collecting data to see which area of our life needs our attention. Because when it comes to habit creation, if we try and do everything all at once, we're pretty much setting ourselves up to fail. We're pretty much setting ourselves up to not be able to sustain that. So when it comes to habit creation, we really want to choose one thing to focus on at a time. And this is part of the reason why through New Year Nourished You, I created this wheel of health that we can kind of assess and look at which areas need help. And then we can choose which thing to focus on first, based on which is going to bring us the quickest results and benefits, but also which is most in need of support. So I talk everyone through how we navigate that, and that will be part of the integration process of the 10-day challenge. But when you sign up, you get that worksheet. You get that and you can go through that and you can give yourself those ratings in the 10 different areas as we go through the trainings each day. And it's really important that we go through the trainings as we're doing those ratings, because we may think we're at a certain level on one thing, and then we kind of hear a different perspective, something that I have to share, and we're like, oh, okay, I'm actually further ahead on that, or I'm actually like not quite where I thought I was on that. And remember, being further ahead doesn't mean anything. It's not good, bad, right, wrong. It's all just data. So there's that worksheet. And when you sign up for the challenge and you join, you also go in the running to win exclusive prizes, including one-on-one coaching sessions with me, my Real Food Way program, and other random little prizes that are involved. There's more information in that in the Facebook group, and you get to be part of the like-minded community. The Facebook group is going off at the moment, and like I said, I'm loving interacting and hearing from those of you, and it's also so powerful for that accountability. Because one thing that I always teach is it's like one thing to know something and it's another thing to actually implement and embody it. So by you being involved, by you interacting, by you taking action and having that accountability from me and having that accountability of potentially winning one of the exclusive prizes, that is going to help you get even more out of it. And this is what I want for you. I want you to get more out of this challenge. I want you to really take on board what you're learning from me. I love to teach. I love it so much. It like fills me with so much joy and it's so fulfilling for me. But it's even more fulfilling when I know you're actually getting so much from it and you're implementing it and you're seeing the impact on your life and you're seeing your life change, your health change. So that is a little bit about New Year Nourished You. And of course, I link to many other resources and I'll be giving you opportunities and other ways that I can support you throughout 2024 and help you have your happiest and healthiest year yet. So join us inside. The link, like I mentioned, is in the show notes, in my bio over on Instagram, in the YouTube info underneath, wherever you are watching or listening. And I look forward to sharing more from this 10 days and all of the value I have to give. And I have so much to say on each of these 10 topics, and keeping it to 30 minutes or up to 30 minutes. I've said that each day will be between 15 to 30 minutes. It's always a struggle because I could talk about each of these things. I could have a whole program or whole course on each of these things, just like I have a whole program, a 6-week program on the food side of things. I could pretty much come up with a whole program for each of these. So obviously it's like a very condensed version, but I love bringing you little perspective shifts and potent little like nuggets of wisdom that might change the way you look at that particular ingredient or give you something really impactful that's going to sit with you and you're going to be like, oh, okay, I get that differently now than I did before. So that's a little insight into it. I will also mention if you join live while it's running, there are live calls every morning at 7 a.m. Melbourne time. So that's AEDT, the time zone, Melbourne, Australia. And it's so awesome seeing those of you that can make it in the morning at 7 a.m. and interacting with you. And it also gives you the opportunity to ask any questions or engage in those calls as well. But if you can't make it live, there are replays sent out every morning after the call is complete, along with your daily action step. So every day you get a training video and you get a simple action step to go along with it so that you can really implement what we've discussed and implement the teachings. So I hope you've enjoyed this insight into why I created New Year Nourish You and why I don't believe that you need to be a new you and you will just evolve naturally and you are already amazing as you are. And when you can love yourself along the way, the journey is so much more fulfilling and satisfying. And I hope you choose to join me over in the free 10-day challenge. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking again soon.